Hello, folks. Welcome back to World War II TV and an impromptu, nearly live Woody's World War II TV Walkabouts. So if you remember what I was doing a couple of weeks ago, I was out on holiday in the Vercors, and while I was there, I did a couple of live streams, but I also took some footage at places where I had no signal to be able to do a live stream. One of them was the Luire cave, or the Grotte de la Luire, which is the French name for it, which is where one of the nastier massacres of the French resistance occurred during the Battle of Vercors. If you're watching this and haven't seen the other programs I've done, check the playlist and you'll find other ones where I was talking about the Vercors. Hopefully there'll be another one of these this afternoon in a few hours' time with my footage from the memorial to the resistance in the middle of the Vercors, where again there was no signal. But to recap the situation, the Vercors is in the Massif Central. It was a plateau surrounded by mountains south of Grenoble. Just after D-Day, the resistance there, the French there kind of declared it as an independent state. They declared themselves liberated from within because D-Day has happened in Normandy, of course, and there were between 4,000 and 5,000 resistance there, and they set about setting up a provisional government with schooling and blah 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 and telephone communications, etc., etc., etc. Meanwhile, the Germans, who were lots of them in places like Lyon to the north and Grenoble, began a plan to encircle and wipe out this independent French sub-state, whatever you want to call it. And on July the 21st, the Germans launched this campaign. About 10,000 German troops, possibly as many 12,000 Gerbers, Jäger, so mountain troops, regular Wehrmacht, some armored troops attacked from the north, from the south, and particularly what the resistance weren't expecting is they landed gliders right in the middle of the plateau, right in the middle of what they believe was the resistance headquarters. And I'll be talking about that in the later show, hopefully today. And then also they began to move mountain troops across through the narrow kind of passes through the mountains, attacking the resistance from a direction they weren't expecting it. During the initial fighting, there had, of course, been resistance casualties because the Germans were ferocious in their counterattacks towards resistance, and there had been a kind of conventional resistance hospital in the middle of the plateau. Even as early as that first day, July the 21st, things were not looking good for the resistance, and the doctors in charge of this hospital thought about moving it to somewhere else. One of the potential places was the town of Die, which is spelled D-I-E, which is like the word die, but it D. But they also considered this cave. Now, this cave we're going to be talking about in a minute, I'm going to put the footage up in a minute, folks, is up a kind of a winding switchback road, and it was a cave that if you had been in the 19th century, early 20th century, a geologist, if you've been studying that part of France, you would probably know about it. But it wasn't a cave that other people knew about. It was, in fact, it was within the region. It was very considered a place of great suspicion. There was believed to be a witch living there because it floods every now and then and water comes gushing out. So it wasn't a place that people went to, but it could afford people protection. And the actual central internal bit of the cave is -7 degrees centigrade all the time. And I did a tour there with Mac, and that's where I got the footage I'm going to play you in a minute. So I was, it's a bit jerky because I was on a tour. I was trying to hold up my stabilizer, but keep my footing, hold on to things as I'm going around there, listen to what the French guide was saying. And I wasn't allowed to film in the actual full bit of the cave itself, only in the entrance. But the entrance is where this story took place. And as with most stories involving the Germans and resistance, it's a nasty ending. So I'm going to bring the footage up now and then kind of tell you the story as I go along. I haven't written a script or anything. You know how I do these things. It's just me kind of reading stuff as I go. So there'll be some ers and ums and bits where I get things a bit confused. But I'm going to play the footage now and go from there, basically. So so here is the footage, and I'll kind of talk over it. So again, it's a bit jerky. It's a bit unprofessional, but hopefully it will set the scene for you. So here's the footage. So this is the entrance to the area where the cave is. Okay, so it's actually, whoops, no, that's right. Hang on, what's happened there? Something has gone wrong. Hang on a minute. I don't even love it when it's gone live. Something, oh, there we go. There we go. It's gone in there. So this is the map showing where it is there. And again, it's gone black again. I don't know why it's doing that. There's something going wrong with this. Why is the foot? Oh, there we are. There we are. This is one of the memorials outside where the cave area is. listing some of the people who were killed there. And it's very complicated. The numbers here are very confusing because it was a constant kind of moving of people around with different injuries. There were French there. There was even an American there. He was part of what we might call the Jedburgh team, dropped in earlier to advise and train the resistance. People were being moved out with different injuries. So the exact numbers are slightly unclear. Now, this is me walking up to the actual cave entrance. You can see there's a massive kind of gorge down the left there. I've taken out all the sound from the footage so that you can understand what's going on. That's Mag there in the green cardigan. And you can see that it's an entrance that, it's not easy to get to. This is the tour group that we're going on a tour of the cave. So most of these people were maybe half aware of the World War II story, but they were there mainly because they wanted to see the cave. And it was absolutely fascinating learning about how the water drops down and why there are no stalactites and stalagmites, because the water rushes out every 2 or 3 years and breaks everything. But this is the opening part of the cave. This is where, in 1944, the resistance had been gathering their wounded personnel within this area here, where it's not as cold as the actual. If I pause the video there, right in the middle of the shot there, you can kind of see a table in the dark bit there, and that's where they give you lights and things to go on the tour of the cave. And through there is a door to this. I don't know how far you go in there, several hundred meters, but this is the area where the resistance were. So I'll just, while it's playing, I'll tell you a bit about what happened there. So it's a story that involves treachery, in that there's a French person who possibly gave away where to the Germans where these resistance workers and hospital staff were working. It involves German troops because there were German wounded again. 2 of them are Polish. One was Czech, I believe, because there was an Ostbattalion involved, and we're still 79 years later, still not quite sure exactly which Ostbattalion was there as part of the German unit. This is one of the memorials there. That there are 5 plaques inside the cave listing the members of some of the hospital teams. It tells you to kind of remember those that fell, etc., etc., etc. So I'll keep on telling you what happened there while this footage is playing. So over the night of the 21st, 24th, the Vercors hospital staff started moving people out in a bus, some trucks, and a private car. There was 122 wounded, including sick people with disease, and also the staff. And they approached the cave via this winding hill that is the road. That's the way I went up themselves. The doctor there, Ganymede, decides to leave some of the wounded in the town of D. Others were taken up to the cave itself. And there, over the next few days, where I'm standing in this video now, they began to treat people. Now, they had some heating devices there for heating up, for sterilizing medical instruments, which they were also using to heat up food, because you can imagine in an entrance to a cave, it was incredibly cold there. And to keep these wounded people warm was essential. So they got incredible amounts of blankets and trying to keep things warm there. But the main thing was they believed they were safe from the Germans, which we now realize wasn't entirely so. That's the kind of the classic view looking from inside the cave out. And again, I apologize for the slightly jerky footage because I was trying to grab this in between listening to the tours. This is actually now after tours, when we're meant to be making our way out. I took this particular footage. So there are an American officer called Chester Myers. He's one of the guys there. He jumped in by parachute. There were some 4 German soldiers, or Polish. One of them is called Felix Dombrowski. There's one called Kruzel. This bit where it goes black, I don't know why it's doing this. It's something to do with my transition. It didn't work properly, but whatever. We'll cover it. I know what it is now. It's just a technical glitch. And there were 13 medical staff here looking after this. Now, for the first few days, although the conditions are pretty bleak there, although they haven't got a huge amount of provisions, they at least are safe in the fight. They can hear the fighting. It's only a few miles sort of south of where they are. They can hear, in fact, it's not so much fighting now, it's almost rounding up. The Germans have pretty much taken control of the plateau. What they're doing now is trying to find and eliminate the groups. I'll just pause it on that bit there, because that was one of the plaques saying, how to remember, to remember this in silence. And that's why I wasn't talking on the video soundtrack when I was taking it. I want to remind people watching this isn't the SS. The Germans who come in here soon are the Wehrmacht. These are supposedly, as some people will claim, the not too bad Germans. These are the honorable Germans who fight, oh, they're just serving for their country. These Wehrmacht guys here went into this area. This was a ruthless anti-partisan operation of the type they were doing in Eastern Europe, or had been doing earlier in the war, and in places like Yugoslavia. The commanders have given very clear orders here: no survivors, wipe everybody out, blah blah blah. And this is the Wehrmacht. This is Gerberjäger and regular German troops. This massacre that unfolds was these guys. So forget this idea that the Wehrmacht are the good guys. They're often just as bad as the SS and the Waffen SS and the Gestapo. So again, this is the cave here. So I'll carry on telling you the story. And hopefully, you're understanding what's going on here. So various wounded coming in and out of the cave there, and the big question today is how this cave was discovered by the Germans. As I said earlier, the likelihood is a French person told the Germans where they were. Now, that on first impression sounds really bad, doesn't it? That a French person is divulging where these wounded are. But you've got to understand the way the Germans are going in there. They're lining families up. They're massacring people in front of their farms. Their 200 buildings on the Vercors plateau were destroyed by fire. They're lining people up. They're lining up children in other places in the Vercors. They are being ruthless in their finding out of information about the resistance and the survivors of this battle. So if some poor French individual gave some information, maybe to save the lives of his children, to save the lives of his family, he is still a traitor. He's still treacherous. He's still committed treason, whatever you want to, lots of words beginning with TR. But I'm going to give this guy or person, cut them some slack and say the situation that was going on there is awful, and I would not want to be in a situation where I've got a German soldier shouting at me and threatening my family, and I have some information about where people are hiding. Maybe I'd have said something myself. So the French, understandably, are treating this story with kid gloves. There's lots of complications to it, but at some point, if you remember that bit where you could see the gorge coming up, in fact, as I'm panning around now with the camera to the left, at some point on 27th of July, about 20, maybe 30 Germans kind of suddenly arrived. They kind of either abseiled down from above or they climbed up that slope from below. This is footage outside again of another memorial outside the cave. And then things get really pretty grim there. That some of the wounded are shot right there on the spot. They are just literally shot where they were lying. German soldiers who are being treated, there are at least 4 Germans, to say 2 of them may have been Polish, are saying to the German commanders, for goodness sake, these people have been looking after us alongside their own people. You cannot just wipe them out. These people are obeying the Geneva Convention. They're being honorable as medics should be, as medical personnel should be, and the German officers don't give a shit, and they just start killing people. And the next bit just is a catalogue of horrible events. Some are taken on a truck and shot elsewhere. So the women hospital workers are taken to Ravensbrück. One survivor of that actually returned to the La Luire cave about 10 years ago, and there's a plaque to her that I think I've got footage of. I can't remember. And some were shot by the side of the road, some were left before convoys came up, but all the time the Germans are making decisions where they could be compassionate. They could just put these people onto trucks and take them elsewhere, but they're not. They're deciding to kill them. The medical staff are being taken away. The wounded are being taken away. So the exact numbers of people are being killed here it's hard to say, I say, because there's different incidents happening at different times, and there's different witnesses to this. But a number are shot in the cave itself, and others are taken away. I'll just read you a little bit here. I'm reading this, translating it from translation from French. It's a bit dodgy translation, but this is a little bit an example of what was happening there. How the Germans have requisitioned a farmer and his cart pulled by cows to transport 12 of the wounded to the village, where there are 7 others who've been taken there. On the way, the convoy of seriously wounded encounters a group of German paratroopers. Night falls, and the one of the guys who's wounded in the cart is shot by the Germans, shot in the leg. A lieutenant in the French army who's there was shot. There's a 2-year-old child, a pregnant wife had been injured. they are killed. It's just a catalogue of horrible, nasty things done by the Germans here, and I'm just not going to list the entire aftermath of what happened here because it's just very grim. You kind of got the picture now. And it doesn't end immediately. The roundups continue at least until the middle of August because there are still resistance cells hiding in this massive great area. And when I do the video later on from the memorial, you'll see just how enormous this area is and how many incredible number of places there are for these resistance people to hide. But the Germans are being ruthless in their mopping up operations, and so it gets pretty gruesome. So I'm going to end it now because I want this show to get some traction, and 15 minutes is a nice length of time to do it. But that was some footage I took in the Luire cave, and it's that whole area south of Grenoble in the Vercors. When Mag and I were there, we realized that it's underappreciated in terms of the World War II aspect to it there. Every village has a monument, some have several because of the numbers that were involved there. We're talking, I think it was 639 resistance were killed on the plateau over the course of these 3 or 4 weeks, and about 200 civilians killed. And a lot of those killed were not killed in conventional fighting. They were killed, as I say, in events like this where the Germans have won. They've controlled, they have done what they're supposed to do, they've gone in, they've put down this uprising, if you like, and then they are killing people. And this, don't forget, this is July and August 44. They know the writing is on the wall now. They know the Allies are in Normandy. There's still massacres happening when the Falaise Gap is closing. The German army is crumbling in the west. There's rumors of, well, it's already happened. August the 15th, the landings Dragoon happen in the south of France. That's happening as well. And even before they'd happened, there's a rumor that there's going to be this massive landing in the south of France. And yet these German commanders are doubling down. They're not in any way attempting to kind of, back off and be a bit more reasonable. They are going in this exactly as they've been doing in the Eastern Front and Yugoslavia 2 and 3 years earlier. So I urge people to go out there and read more about this battle. I'm going to try and do some more stuff about it myself. The Paddy Ashdown book about the Vercors is really worth reading. There are others out there, but yeah, that's it. Just a short little video about the Luire cave, and hopefully in a few hours' time there'll be another one with my footage I took from the top of the mountains overlooking the plateau where the gliders landed, where the battles took place on July the 21st, and from the viewing platform at the museum there, which again there was no signal there. Hopefully I'm going to get that footage, do something with that in the next couple of hours, and schedule that for, I don't know, 2 o'clock this afternoon, something like that, UK time, French time, I don't know. But anyway, thanks for watching this. I'm not going to answer any of your questions because I'm not, but there you are. That was a short video about La Luire cave, not edited, not scripted, just me rambling as I always do, because it's easier to just do it live than it is write everything out. Anyway, there you are, folks. I will hopefully see you again later. This is Paul Woodadge for World War II TV. Remember, if you're finding this video and you've not seen any of our regular content, our normal shows are an hour and a half or so long. We have an historian on coming on talking about a subject. There isn't one tonight. I thought it was tonight, but it's tomorrow. Matt Lamarthe is coming on talking about the 37th Division in the Solomons, US 37th Division. So there we are. Thanks, everybody. I will see you again next time. It's Paul Woodadge for World War II TV, enjoying one of my slightly not live walkabouts. Cheers, everybody.